Kim. Talakura. Greetings. Tawhanuku is the son of the forest and its father. His alone is the perspective of the ages, of centuries of life, growth, death, and decay. We exist within a grand cycle, one that extends far beyond the outcomes of petty battles or even great wars. Tawhanuku stands apart from all of this, aiming not for any grand goal, but simply to teach. That is why he gifted us with the ability to dream, so that we may see beyond ourselves. Inner peace can only be attained by accepting that life and death are inevitable. You, young one, do you wish to waste away your time fighting here in the halls of the dead? Or do you want to live what time you have left to the fullest? Only you know the answer. You must be wondering how an old man comes to find himself among these honored warriors. I practiced a very different type of combat. One that operated in ways that we Kahuturoa normally disdain. I was a diplomat, a peacemaker, and an ambassador. In contrast to the warriors around me, I brought unmatched prosperity to my tribe, not by raiding or conquest, but through cooperation. I was brought here because it is important that the young and headstrong do not forget the importance of these values. That, and I can crack a skull or two with my cane. So listen when I speak, child, or you'll get a tap. My fellow Kahuturoa never wanted to face the hard truth. If the Val wanted to wipe us out, they could have. They wouldn't have even needed to invade us, and our lauded might would have been useless. Their empire rose to power on the back of corruption, and those gems the Mary called the tears of Magi. Corruption has a tendency to make Kahuturoa sick with a kind of blood fever. That is the true reason our way forbids the use of tears of Magi. During my life, a handful of Kahuturoa tried to implant them in their flesh. They became filled with rage and unnatural strength, and we had to put them down, then burn their bodies. Their mere proximity made others sick too. So for every warrior that transgressed, 5 others gave their lives to protect the rest of us. To wipe us out, the Val could have simply spread the blood fever. My peacemaking, concessions, and treaties were born of that vulnerability, and I am glad I forged such a path. The Val Empire eventually succumbed to its own disease, and we remained. Stand still for a moment. You're always running all over the place. Ask yourself, how are you feeling? Are you all right? What is it that you truly need? Why aren't you pursuing it? The answers will not bring you peace, but it's a good first step. In this world, there are several routes to power. There is personal power, which was best exemplified by Kaum, personally besting the leaders of each tribe, and uniting the Kahuturoa with his own strength. There is communal power, which I try to exemplify. Cooperation and unity produce great works that last for thousands of years. Then there is faith, which we have yet to fully understand. Somehow, in a bygone era, it turned exceptional men and women into divine beings. I wonder, after all you have done, how many people believe in you? The other tribes have it all wrong. We exist in a grand cycle, yes, but there will be no singular moment or event that marks some sort of disastrous end. You were a seedling. You grew into an infant, then a child, then an adult. And one day you will be old, and then you will die. But in every stage of your life, there were others just beginning theirs. When you die, there will be others just starting their lives. A tree falls, but that only clears the way for new seedlings. Trees die every season, but the forest remains. So it is with the Kadui, and indeed all peoples. So it is with the world itself. Nothing ever ends. The perspective of existence just shifts. The Tawhanuku tribe found its unique perspective in the ancient days. The forest depends upon the light given by Ramako. It also depends upon the rains brought by Valako and the coolness brought by Rongokurai. At night, we hunted by the light given by Lanihua, and then Arohongui, her daughter. As you can see, right from the start, we realized that our existence is inextricably linked with all life, and theirs is linked with ours. Some tribes are too blind or arrogant to see this connection, and we try to pull them back from their excesses so that we may all thrive. While I greatly enjoy advising generations of Kadui that come to us for wisdom, I do wonder if the halls of the dead are a good idea in and of themselves. Inikora brings our souls here after we die. But where do the souls of other peoples go? Where would we have gone? We assume the alternative is oblivion, but nobody knows for certain. These unanswerable questions plague me at night when I am trying to sleep. Alone among the warriors here, I lived my full life and died of old age. I consider it a mark, not of cow. Tawhanuku is the son of the forest. Alone among the warriors here, I lived my full life and died of old age. I consider it a mark, not of cowardice, but of a master strategist who was never defeated. Goodbye.
Hello. I was 13 when an Eternal army attacked my tribe. They were in search of an ancient and powerful weapon from our myths, but we only had a single piece of it. Our chieftain was felled in his sleep. My father was as well. So, I took up his weapons, and I went about the work that needed to be done. Once they were dead, knowing that more would come if we had what they wanted, I entrusted Tesalio with our piece of that fabled spear. My tribe tried to put me in charge after that, but I refused the mantle. I just did what I thought was right, and they followed. Although, there was something to the myth of that spear's power. In the few moments I held just a piece of it, my hand was permanently scarred, as if I'd been burned by unseen and unfelt heat. Go well.
Tala Moana.
Welcome.
Hello again.
Good day. Even in my earliest memories, I was training for battle. I do enjoy fighting, but not the way others around me did. To them, it was a savage contest of dominance and manhood. To me, there was an elegance to warfare. It had an ebb and flow, like the tide. It was a kind of dance. When they say I have an unconventional fighting style, it is because they do not realize that I am not fighting. I am dancing. I may feel the bite of an axe at any moment, so why not enjoy each sweep and each slash? They have their way. What I have, I call the flow. Tesalio has never spoken to me directly. I think I hear his influence in the waves and the wind over the ocean. I found a ring on the shore one day, bearing his graven pattern. It had washed up from the ocean, and I still believe it was a gift from him. It had a great power within it, but I never used it. I didn't need to. There were no problems I could not face with my own strength and cunning. You'll have to ask everyone else what they think. True followers of Tesalio do not trouble themselves with thoughts of such a far-flung future. Each day that you can recline on your waikoama, feel the waves beneath you, and take in the sun and the sky, that is a day to treasure. I do not have those anymore, but I console myself with the knowledge that my descendants do. Live for today, outsider. Yesterday, tomorrow, they do not exist. You are only ever here, now. There is a flow to the world, to the sea, and to battle. I could lose myself for hours in a war, just running, fighting, and hewing down my enemies. I sense that you know this joy as well. I have nothing to teach you, but you already know what makes you happy. Go well.
Outsider. The Daughter of the Moon has my tribe's eternal loyalty. Alone among the gods, she has no agenda of her own. The rest all seek something endlessly. Whatever it was that gave each of them a divine spark. But Arohongui was born divine, and chose to aid the Karui people as much as she could. She did not ask us for loyalty, and that is why she has it. Many believe that the Mother of the Moon has been off fighting a war against the Mother of the Sun for thousands of years. While Lanihua is indeed absent, it is not to fight against her sister. The wounded souls from that war are sent to the Silver Palace, where Arohongui tends to them until they may rejoin the fight. Those warrior souls cry out in fear and torment as they lay in hospice. They speak not of war with Sione, but of a war with the stars themselves. They have been sworn to silence by both Sione and Lanihua, but the feverish ones cannot help but rant. Apparently, the two sisters did go out into the night sky to wage war upon one another. But when they got there, they encountered something horrible. Something that drives even the strongest warrior to madness and panic. We have not been abandoned by our two strongest gods. They are out there protecting us every single minute of every single day, and they cannot rest for even a moment. That's what the tales say, in any case. I don't know how much of that I actually believe. The Ramako tribe, like us, often uses ice and cold in their war making. That is because Ramako has long loved Lanihua, Arohongui's mother, in secret. He fights not for himself, but for her. His people do the same. I don't understand it at all, but it is what it is. They never stop asking. How arrogant. Even if we remain here for 10,000 years, I will never go through the traditions with them. I will participate in the battles because I enjoy fighting. But this is their culture. They seem unaware that I do not intend to fit their expectations. My heart warms for no one. I do not know what love is. Only that it motivates others to act like fools and monsters, depending on their inclinations. Perhaps I do have a frozen heart, but that doesn't mean I feel nothing. Their words still hurt me, perhaps even more than their weapons. There are few here who understand. Karui culture can often be excessively focused on having certain traits, such as strength or bravado. Certain duties are expected of each of us, whether or not we want to fulfill them. I died long before Rakiata, so we never met in life. But here in the halls of the dead, they're my closest friend. In death, I actually feel understood. For that, I can never begrudge this place. Talakura!
Talamoana.
Talamoana.
Greetings. There are many fables about the end of the world, but those are just metaphors. My tribe knows how it will really happen. The moon in the sky above follows a roughly oval path around us. Did you know that our world is actually shaped like the moon? Most believe that Rayclast is flat, because that is the obvious interpretation of what we see. However, in studying the moon, my tribe has discovered the truth. Also, we realized that the moon's path is not exact. Over many, many thousands of years, it is changing slightly toward us. We have come to understand that the world will end when the moon comes too close and falls upon us. This is not myth. This is knowledge. What else could possibly happen when two such titanic spheres of stone crash into each other? I have always been fascinated by the pursuit of knowledge. There is a pattern underneath everything we see. This pattern preceded even the gods. If something in the world around you works a certain way, it will always work that way. If it does not, something else is happening, and you must investigate. In life, I followed these questions to the heart of the pattern, and it took me to a vast lake. But I do not remember what I found there. Luck be with you.
Outsider! Talamoana. Rongokura is the father of night. Many associate that with evil. Not so. The night shrouds the innocent, hiding them from those who would do harm. The night gives cover to warriors on their raids. More importantly, the night is cool, bringing relief from a hot day. My armor is heavy and gets quite hot, so I look forward to the sunset. It's the little things. Oh, let me tell you this tale of this ancient drama. Sione is the harsh and ambitious mother of the sun, yes? Raumoko is her... what is your word? Husband. Raumoko can't stand her and secretly longs for Lanihua, the mother of the moon, who is kind and caring to all, and very beautiful as well. Raumoko goes to our father of night, Rongokurai, and asks for the cover of darkness to secretly visit Lanihua without his wife knowing. Poor Rongo, being a good brother obliges. Raumoko visits Lanihua many times until, as happens with such things, Arahongui is born. Sione becomes furious, as you can imagine. The sun becomes so bright, fire scorches the world. My tribe survives that fire easily because we tend to live in caves. But Lanihua, being a natural healer, steps in to preserve the rest of the Karui. Sione goes to war against her, and she and Lanihua have been fighting ever since. Now Raumoko lives alone in his golden palace, and Arahongui tends wounded souls in the silver palace of the moon, taking care of it in her mother's absence. The most absurd part? Raumoko claims it wasn't him. He calls his brother a liar. And now Raumoko and Rongo don't speak. The day and the night are forever avoiding each other because the father of the sun couldn't keep his belt tied on. Fortunately, we Karui are much more mature and responsible in modern times. I don't enjoy fighting all that much. I just happen to be very good at it. I was given this position because I kept winning. The others get very excited for every battle, but there are parts of the halls of the dead I wish I could see. Supposedly, there is a place for the souls of warriors that weren't very skilled, and there they laze around in dishonor, eating, drinking, and doing whatever they want. Where would you rather be, outsider? The afterlife is long, outsider. Think of the longest time you can remember. A winter that went on for many extra months. Or back to your childhood. That long. Then it's even longer than that. We might be dead here, but we're all still alive. Everyone here has gone through the traditions with everyone else. Some were even married for centuries. Eventually, though, time has a way of wearing everything away. You think you found your partner for eternity. Then 100 years later, you find the same thing with someone else. But not Ikiaho. Never Ikiaho. She turns down everyone, even me, and quite publicly. She has been alone all this time. Oh, you've been talking to the Hinekora tribe, have you? They're very dramatic with the end of time fable. The Rongokurai tribe has a much more dignified end in mind. When the world gets tired, it will be a quiet and calm slip into twilight. Night that goes on so long it blends into death itself. No more sunlight, no more plants, no more animals, no more people. Then, just as it always has, the sun will rise again on a new world. With sunlight comes plants, then animals, then people. It's obvious. Ngā Makanui isn't a place. Not really. Makanui is our way, and Ngā means from, or of. So anywhere that our people go, mostly islands, we like to roam. That is Ngā Makanui, because we have brought our way to it. Outsiders that don't understand us often mark Ngā Makanui in a particular place on a map, but that is a mistake we don't care to correct. It is better that the Vaal don't know where we are. Speaking of the Vaal, I haven't heard anything about them in a long time. I wonder how they're doing these days. Oh, the Vaal are dead. All of them? There was such a massive empire in my time. That's unsettling. Well, At least our friends the Asmeri can move on down from the mountains now and set up an empire of their own. Oh, the Asmeri did set up an empire. And they died too? What's going on up there? I suppose that golden colt they banished to Oriath is going to take over the world now. Don't you know it's rude to ask a man about his death? Good day or night.
Hey, friend. Tala moana. The ancient tavukai against the use of projectile weapons is not a rule that applies to us. It was a matter of pride for those tribes that lauded brutish men with large axes. The Ramako tribe prefers to fell warriors like that with well-placed arrows, long before their axes ever come close. My mother was a great woman, and continues to be my role model, despite her inexplicable absence here. The other chieftains often talk about her wartime acts when she fought alongside Kaum, but by the time I was old enough to know her, she had long been queen of the still united tribes. I grew up in a time of turmoil and nightmare in the wake of the cataclysm that destroyed the Eternals. Because she once helped put the men in power who likely caused it, my mother taught me that war is not the glorious endeavor our way makes it out to be. All she wanted by the end was peace. She was begrudgingly taking an army raised from multiple tribes to deal with a strange threat on the edge of Ngā Makanui, when she and her legion vanished without a trace. I did my best in the chaos that followed, but it wasn't enough. I was quite young when the world ruptured. The moon turned crimson, fire rained from the sky, warriors went mad with blood fever, and the seas boiled. None of us knew what caused it, but the destruction came from the direction of San and the mountains near it. The madmen must have gone too far. I had nightmares about that time for over a decade, until I finally travelled to the Isle of Shrikes and passed my test of adulthood. After that, I felt like I could handle anything. After my mother's disappearance, the tribes began to fracture. I tried to take on the role of queen, but inheriting such a title felt a bit too much like monarchy and empire, and the other tribes weren't receptive, not after their experiences battling the Eternals. So I used what meager power I had to suggest a new form of united government, a council of chieftains. From the trickle of news we get through living karui that come to us for guidance, I hear that some form of that is still going on. I'm rather proud of that. I died in childbirth, which is considered a warrior's death. I died knowing my daughter would live on. Then, because I was here, I was able to see her grow and thrive. She visited me for advice often, and I treasure those memories. Now she fights as one of my own in these halls. Among others, her daughter and her daughter's daughter also joined us. We now have dozens of descendants coming to us for wisdom. Life and death are strange partners. I have been here for far longer than I was alive, and my extended family only knows me as an ancestral spirit. The other tribes tell all sorts of stories about the end of time. Those are just fables. You see, the sun sets somewhere inside the world each night, but it also changes course from season to season. Eventually, it will stray too near and Rayclass will be burned away by its heat. However, the sun brings life as well. So once it returns to the sky, as it always does, there will be a burst of verdancy unlike we have never ever seen. If you think about it, it's the only end that makes sense. Ramako is both the father of light and father of the sun. These are not the same duty. In the early days, he was just the father of light, and he brought beauty and warmth everywhere he went. The mother of the sun, Sione, lived alone in a jade palace in the sky. At that time, the sun was no brighter than any other star, and it was verdant green. Sione, however, was the most ambitious of the gods. She traded away all of her tribe's possessions to foreign cultures in exchange for gold, and she plated her entire palace with that useless but shiny material. Her tribe was on the verge of starvation, but she asked them to trust her. They put on a festival with what little they had left, and to this, Ramako was invited. In awe of the supposed wealth of Sione, Ramako accepted her invitation to go through the traditions together. Once he entered her golden palace, his light reflected countless times, blazing warmth and life all over the world. Sione's palace cyclically rose above the world, then back into it. And while it was in the sky, that time became known as day. To her credit, this shining beacon drew food, wealth, and respect to her tribe. Her gambit paid off. Ramako became the father of the sun ever after. Ramako's brother. During the traditions, when Ramako first joined with Sione, Rongo Kurai came to the feast at her palace. This confused the people and the animals, as the sky became dark at strange times when Rongo Kurai's darkness dimmed the reflecting light of her golden walls. This greatly irritated Sione. There was nothing she could do. He was family. Her own sister often caused such disruptions already when that silver palace neared hers. And now Ramoko's brother would interfere as well. She resolved to hold family gatherings as little as possible. That is why eclipses only happen every few years. The two sisters put aside their eternal war for a brief time to satisfy their traditional familial obligations. Even the gods must follow the way. Ah, yes. Ramako was impersonated by someone who visited Lanihua, the mother of the moon, in his guise. My ancestors suspected the truth of this immediately. Arohongui had a very strange inheritance, with abilities prone to darkness and illusions, quite unlike Ramoko's golden strength and honesty. There is a tale, very rarely told, of a deceiver being caught and locked away for this crime. Supposedly, it was the ancient elders of my tribe that enacted this justice. But we consider the matter settled. But Sione and Lanihua continue to battle for eternity in distant realms. They do not listen to us. They do not listen to anyone. All they care about is vengeance. It might be controversial in Western Ngāmakanui, but I say that the gods who forget their people are not owed our loyalty. You can do it!
Hello. Our father of war was the first to put axes in Karui hands. We learned that we could take from this world rather than accept what was given. Many of the other gods are generous, but why should we subsist in harmony with the land when we have the strength to be its masters? That word, Karui, is an informal name for anyone of the blood, whether a chieftain, a child, or a kaivana. The Ngākura Makoi, however, are those who truly comprise our culture. They must be followers of the way, and they must have passed their test of adulthood at the Isle of Strikes or elsewhere. A great warrior does not have to be Karui by blood to become Ngākura Makoi. It is rare, but it does happen. I shall be watching you with great interest. Thousands of years before I was born, the Tukuhama tribe and the Ngāmahu tribe were in continual conflict. A cycle of vengeance kept the two groups raiding each other, and they were beginning to lose their superior positions. There was a danger of the other tribes becoming dominant. To put an end to it, Ngāmahu and Tukuhama went through the traditions together. Tokuhama aided her in the forging of the legendary axe, while her ring, a sign of fire and fertility, was given to us. Eventually, her ring passed down to me. Kalm took it, and my head, when he slew me in his bid to unite the tribes. It is our way, but my defeat still stings. I don't know what to make of the Hinikora tribe. They have always lived halfway in death and halfway in life. Their eyes are elsewhere, and their words are meaningless. They have some kind of strength, but I don't know what to make of it. And I certainly don't feel they are passing down any wisdom to their descendants when they speak in riddles. Maybe it's just the particular warriors here. I can't imagine their children talking in prophecies and enigmas. My battle with Kalm began at sunrise. Our warriors were assembled on either side, ready to slaughter each other, but neither of us gave the sign. By dawn's light, we fought on the sand, axe against axe. Kalm was strong, but arrogant, which showed through in his fighting style. When he overextended himself, I made him pay for it in blood. However, his greater strength kept me on the defensive. Every hour, the Hatungo called a truce, and we drank, ate, and were tended to. By nightfall, Kalm and I were moving like turtles, guarding ourselves behind our axes and taking only the most calculated movements. Eventually, he overextended again, and I dealt him a heavy wound to his chest. But this was an acceptable sacrifice he had made on purpose. He broke my knee with the end of his axe handle, and that was it. He gave me a warrior's death rather than leave me broken on the sands. I would not have had it any other way. Like Ramako in stories, Ahuana is a ray of light in this dark place. The halls of the dead are a good thing, but the years keep passing and weigh heavily on all of us. Kahuturoa was one of the first souls here, and I fear becoming like him. Right now, after only 3 centuries or so, I can still take the way seriously and uphold all of our traditions with pride. What will I be like in thousands of years? With good friends like Ahuana remaining positive, perhaps I can make it to the end with my dignity. Personally, I hope it will not be too long before the end. I have already existed 3 centuries longer than I was alive. Each tribe has its own belief about how the world will end, but you must understand these tales do not conflict. They are all correct. Our traditional expectations are not literal. Our Hatungo speaks of a time when all ngā kuramakoi will become so strong and so skilled at warfare that every man and woman will seek to become their own chieftain. Bloodlust will take over the people, and war will continue until only one warrior remains. That warrior will be the strongest that ever lived in all of history, and he will die soon after from his wounds. His fallen body will become the new world, and his blood, the rivers. His dying war cry will become the sky, and his fierce eyes will become the new sun and moon. Of course, this is not a literal tale. It is meant to give us a sense of place in a chaotic existence. There is immense value in this. Our traditions give us meaning and purpose. That is why I have dedicated my life and my death to upholding them. Otherwise, we would be adrift and full of fear. Like many others, the Karui gods have awakened. But aside from Tokuhama and Kitava, we have heard nothing of their activities. They walk ray-classed like in times of old. So, where are they? Our descendants come to us and ask us when the gods will return home. For this, we have no answer. Even Hinikura seems unwilling to speak on what she sees. Go with strength.
It's you. I have a complex relationship with Valako. I speak to him, and he remains silent. It's just like my last wife. I joke. But we're alone. The Karui must forge their own path in this world. Valako is more like our tribe mascot than an actual figure of leadership or aid. Many think I was defeated by Kalm in some grand battle. But I was 74 when he took my head. He essentially bullied an old man. Can you picture my delight when I awoke here in my prime? I know that I give you lots of, what do they say, shite. Yes. But I'm just overcome with joy at being young and strong again. No harm meant. Oh, and I'm one of the lucky ones. Here, our souls appear as we truly see ourselves. Some of us had some pretty big surprises when they woke up in the halls of the dead. They call me the first herald of war. And indeed I was, but they don't understand. Valako gave a sign to my people thousands of years ago. A ring with his graven pattern. It passed down from chieftain to chieftain in my tribe. When I put it on, it did something it never had before. It surged with the power of the storm. Valako didn't know me, how could he? The gods were asleep. So I appointed myself the Herald of War, and I used the power of Valako's sign to win many great battles. I laid the foundations for Karui unification before Kalm was even an urge in some bastard's loins. We all seem neatly divided into our tribes here, but it isn't so. Warriors switch tribes all the time due to marriage, chieftain successions, or simple wanderlust. We Karui are a nomadic people, in the physical and spiritual sense. When I call my tribe the Valako tribe, yes, we are. But at one time we followed Tukahama, and at another Teselio, and then Valako again before that. Essentially, each god must prove themselves to us the same way we prove ourselves to each other. If a tribe falls on hard times, clearly their god has failed them, and it may be time for another. We can also call upon any god we wish at any time, so long as we're in good standing as a warrior. Basically, it's like children running amok around the campfire. It's funny, outsider. We think we get to choose who we fight. Tawhanuku already knows ahead of time what we'll do, mostly. If you fight her, it's because she's chosen to fight you. That doesn't mean she'll win, though. Even Hinekora's vision isn't infallible. Poor Maata. Because of his true self, he's cursed to be an old man for eternity. Hilarity. Certain arrogant warlords claim my bloodline was ended, but they don't know just how many children I really had. I was something of a madman in my prime. Half the warriors serving under them might be descended from me at this point. They come to the halls of the dead for advice. I tell them to drink, fight, and enjoy life while they have it. Have you ever had the feeling during a rising storm that the winds and rain might just keep getting stronger and never ebb? That's how the world will end. A great storm will cover the land, and it will just keep raging harder and harder until everything is swept away. And as always happens after a big storm, life will burgeon anew. We see it all the time around us. Why would it be any other way? Yes, yes. She has a frozen heart. That's all anyone ever talks about. She's turned me down a few times, and I've gone through the traditions with everyone else here, even Rakiata. No disrespect if it moves. I'll chase it. We're all young again. Except for poor Maata. So why shouldn't we enjoy ourselves? Run along!
Hi!
Hello. Kiloava makes grand claims about his own abilities, but he backs them up with the strength to win. I care little for bluster, so long as the warriors in these halls adhere to the way. Go with strength.
How goes it? She's stronger than she knows. She doesn't need me to fight battles on her behalf, nor would she want me to. When I first arrived here, many of the other chieftains were hostile, and the most traditional among them outright rejected me. It was she who vouched for me. The opportunity to fight allowed me to prove myself, as I knew I could. And I have led Tesalio's warriors ever since. In Ikiaho, I could not have asked for a better friend. Sometimes, we even sneak out of here for a glimpse at the moon and the sea. Go well. There is a forgotten passage, a narrow but lengthy crack in the earth that leads to the main well, though the dead just find themselves back here after a few minutes. Still, that few minutes on the ocean, seeing the living world again, glorious. I go up there whenever I lose my tranquility. Talakura!
Hello. Ramako's claim that someone impersonated him and visited with Lanihua in his guise may be true. We follow Arohongui with utmost loyalty, but my tribe certainly noticed that she never expressed any divine abilities having to do with light or warmth. When tending wounded warriors, she would often give them visions of beautiful landscapes and shining waters to help calm them. When tending the dying, she gave them visions of their family, until the spirits of their ancestors truly greeted them here in the halls of the dead. These are acts of mercy and kindness, but they are not powers of the sun or the moon. I have long suspected that there is something within each of us, some pattern or essence of who we are, that each parent passes down to a child. If my suspicion is correct, then it is not possible that Ramako is Arohongui's father. There is only one sensible conclusion, and that we keep to ourselves, so as not to disrupt the balance of the skies. Luck be with you.
Outsider!
How goes it?
Welcome. Kahuturoa has been here the longest of any of us, since the halls of the dead were first forged by Hinikora. It feels strange saying this because I look so much older, but I worry about the effect the years are having on him. Talakura.
A great darkness fell upon an island one ill-fated season. A young woman held a torch aloft in the unnatural night, and others crawled their way to her. Along the way, they gathered sticks and branches, hoping to feed her flame. Rather than build a bonfire to be encircled by worried eyes, she had them craft torches of their own, and she shared her light. They went out into the darkness unafraid, but now they could see each other in the distance. lost sailor was adrift in stormy seas at the edge of the world, too far for Thessalia to come to his aid. He had left his home, his family, and his village, but not willingly. He held onto driftwood for a time without end, overcome with sadness. When he finally washed ashore, he staggered to the nearest village. To his surprise, they recognized him and greeted him with warmth. Looking in the river, he saw that he had a new face. Here too he had a home and a family. Indeed, he had never left at all. It was he who had never known himself. A blacksmith was frustrated that she could never forge the same weapon more than once. There was always a different balance or a slightly different shape, so she set about making one perfect blade. It took most of her lifetime, but when she was done, she placed it in a clay. The clay became a mold, and from that mold, many perfect blades were forged. There exists a vast mirror in the ground. To gaze into those perfectly polished waters is to see a mortal soul with all its flaws and pains laid bare. There is wisdom and counsel to be had, but some do not survive the truth. A child was throwing rocks into the sea when a great fish washed up. The fish called for aid, and the child carried it back into the water. The fish thanked him and offered to show him the world beneath the waves. The boy accepted and held on to its fin. They swam through vast coral palaces and thick swarms of iridescent life. The boy looked on with wonder, laughing all the way until he began to understand how vast the ocean truly was. He could not let go until the journey was complete, but the journey seemed to be without end. The boy no longer smiled and was forlorn ever after. A gull was flying through the sky when it sighted a fish. It dove, but a larger bird snatched it out of the sea. The gull called loudly and angrily, and the larger bird dropped the fish. The gull ate well that day. It continued cawing at other birds along the shore, taking what was theirs. Eventually it saw a great feast laid out near a fire, and it cawed aggressively at the creature beside it. That creature was a Karoi woman, far stronger than any bird, and she happily added the gull to her feast. A king and chieftain met on the battlefield, with great armies arrayed on either side. The king grinned and demanded surrender. The chieftain crossed his arms and gave no response. The king suggested that the two sides part ways in peace. The chieftain glowered and said nothing. Finally, the king begged for the chieftain to depart and offered great wealth in exchange for mercy. The chieftain touched the axe at his side, considering, but then accepted the offer. No warriors died that day, and no songs would be sung of that conflict, but a great victory was still achieved. Time without pause.
We meet once more.
Noble ancestors, a new challenger has arrived. Challenging them shall be Ikiaho of the Tawhanuku tribe. Ready your weapons! Go!
By moonlight! Now is the time! Silver Comet!
Defeat is inevitable, as is the rematch.
Try as they might, mortals may never touch the moon. Always, never.
Tala Moana.
Hello again.
Nobody thaws the frozen heart, as they say. Get out of here.
Iki's ice abilities are hard to counter. Maybe you'll defeat her next time. Dalagura.
Oh. Valako's finest!
The moon soars high above the mortal world. So it is with battle as well. Goodbye.
Ikiaho knows how to leave a mark. Believe me, I know. Talakura.